Welcome to the yoga method. We are going through a full body mobility routine today. Block are optional, puppies are optional. Stay. Just needing a block if you are finding that your mobility is just reduced in certain ranges and planes. So come and join us on your mat as soon as you're ready. So let's start with our feet hip distance apart and just into a wide leg forward fold, but let's bring activity to it. So on the in-breath, I'd like for you to lift and lengthen, really scooping through your belly. And on your exhalation, deliberately rolling and tucking your chin in. So on the in-breath, think about extension through your lower back, middle back, upper back as you draw your shoulders back, and then gently easing into flexion. Do two more of these. So on the inhale, lift, lengthen, extend, even lift your chin. And on the exhalation, tuck your chin and bow yourselves in. Taking one more breath. How long can you make your arms, your legs, your spines before gently easing your way in and out? Please take a moment to separate your feet just slightly wider. And once you've arrived there safely, please bend your knees a lot. So option one, elbows are going to support us on our lower back. And variation two, we'll play with taking our left arm underneath our thigh. And once you've arrived there safely, your variation three is to take your right hand into the curve of your lower back, or you might actually find your fingertips or your wrist. So on the in-breath, we'll lengthen a little bit more through our right leg. And on the exhalation, we'll bend. So inhaling to open to rotate, exhaling to bend a little bit more. Full breath in, full breath out. So any version of this movement where you're keeping your left knee bent and you're exaggerating the length through your right leg with a little bit of rotation. Taking two more, please. One more full deep breath in and out. You'll release your hands. We'll come back to this position and you'll turn your toes out even wider. And this is where your block might be handy dandy if it feels like coming into a deep squat just isn't accessible today. So let's take a moment to stand tall. I'd like you to press your palms forward as you take a breath in. And on your exhalation, just squat as far as your ankles, knees, and hips will allow. So breathing in to lengthen, breathing out to descend. How do you know if you've gone too far? There's a couple things that'll start to happen. You'll either start to round through your spine or your knees will want to buckle in. So those two in themselves are enough just to be aware of. And then variation three, right? We're coming deep, a little bit deeper, as long as we're not compromising in any way. So knees continue to track towards the second and the third toe. And if I'm challenging my shoulder range of motion, if we are, we'll notice what happens to the chin if we go too far. So we'll either poke the chin forward or we'll start to really lift through the shoulder joint. So the shoulders stay relaxed even though the arms are heading overhead. Let's do two more like this. One more time, please. Warming up all the joints. A little synovial fluid love through compression and decompression. When the time is right for you, we'll realign the feet, we'll remove the block, and we'll bend our knees so much that we have support again for our lower back. Option one, this is it. We don't need to go any further. Variation two, it's your right hand coming under, and it comes into the curve of your lower back. And then variation three, it might be your t-shirt, your fingertips, or your wrist. And then on your in-breath, you're going to lengthen through your left leg any amount. And on the exhalation, we bend. So a little bit of rotation as we lengthen through the left leg. And then gently compressing the joints again as we bend them. Breathe in. Breathing out. Reminding you lovingly that any form of this movement is perfect, whether your hands are resting on your knees or you've got one hand underneath your lower back. It doesn't matter. moving, playing, breathing for 3 more breaths. Last 2, please. And 1 more time. So as we inhale, lengthen through your left leg, turn and look over your left shoulder. And as you bend, just release once again. Peace fingers are ready to take a hold of your big toes. And from here, we're just playing with the range that our bodies will allow. So that might be your range of motion today. So a little knee bend and a little hip lift. If the body allows, we come that little bit deeper and we roll in a little bit deeper. So a breath in to lift through the heart space and an exhalation to pour ourselves back in. We'll just do 2 more of these because we've done quite a bit of compression through the hip and the knee joint through this angle. 1 more time, please. And then we're going to stay in that squatted position. Opportunity and invitation to use your block underneath your pelvis. So we're pressing our hands forward with or without our block. And we're going to maintain this compression through the ankle, through the knee, through the hip joint. So compression is like a little spa treatment for our joints. So compression creates this release of synovial fluid, which is what feeds and nourishes the cartilage of our joints. So a little compression, we're staying. And then I'd love for you to reach your arms as high overhead as you can. So you might choose to open your arms, that might feel better, or you might be able to keep the connection of the interlaced fingers. We're moving into gentle side bends as we maintain compression, flexion through the ankle, the knee, and the hip joint. We're also getting definitely some lumbar flexion too. No matter how straight your spine is, there'll definitely be some lumbar flexion happening here. So on our in-breath, we come to the midline. And on the exhalation, we gently side bend. So if your hands are apart, you might land your elbow and reach high on the in-breath. Land an elbow, reach high. Let's just do 2 more. One more each way. And when the time is right for you, once you've completed that last one, hands behind you and just easing your way down. You'll turn towards the short end of your mat, and we're coming into a pigeon pose or a modified pigeon pose. So the block can absolutely come underneath your pelvis. I'm going to swap legs just so it's easier to see. So you've got your left leg aligned to the top of the mat, and you can keep this knee bent, of course. If it feels available, I'd like for you to roll up and over. Now, pigeon is often a very passive, static stretch, but I'd like for you to work actively today. So we're going to begin with the back leg. And what that means is as we breathe in, I want you to lift the knee, really charge the back leg. And on your exhalation, just gently kiss the floor with your knee. On your in-breath, charge the back leg and really exaggerate the length of the spine. And on the exhalation, release the knee. Let's do 3 more. Full breath in. Ooh, hip flexor, hello. Exhaling to gently release. Last 2. So much more intensity through the hip flexor as we engage through our right glute. Inhale, lift, pause, hold before gently releasing. So variation 1, you're going to repeat that exact same thing of just working with your back leg. Variation 2, we're going to lift through the front hip and sink low. So rather than the back knee lifting, it's actually the front hip that's coming off the ground slightly and then returning. We're endeavoring to keep our pelvic floor lifted, and at the same time, we're trying to use the core to stabilize our spine. And it's the glutes, the action of the glutes, the external rotators of the hip, that are lifting us upwards and then gently lowering us down. Let's just do 2 more. One more, please. One more, please. Lift, pause, and hold before releasing your hands, releasing your hips, and just turning towards the long edge of your mat. I'd like for you to bring your feet super wide and begin with your hands just coming behind your head and your toes lifting towards the ceiling. On your in-breath, open up through your elbows, and on your exhalation, taking a gentle side bend. Inhale to really create a little baby back bend shape before gently easing our way over. Variation 2, exact same movement pattern. We're just lengthening the leg. So on our in-breath, pause, lift and hold, energize your legs. And on your exhalation, gently side bending. The elbow never needs to meet the thigh. So the moment we feel ourselves rounding, we've gone too far. We want to focus on length of the spine and really true lateral flexion. Full breath in, energize your legs. Full breath out. Let's do 2 more. Breath in, breath out. 1 more breath in, and 1 more gentle breath out. Please come home to the midline. Reach your arms high for a moment and actively begin to tip yourself forward. And then you'll just inhale high again. So how far should you go? Only to the extent where you're feeling a very gentle stretch increase through the inner thigh. And the other thing we're looking for is what happens to our spine as we come forward. So the moment I feel myself really rounding, I know I've gone too far. So if I can tip or hinge from the hip joint and try and maintain a long spinal position. So progressively, as we keep coming back to these movements, we're actively strengthening while we're creating flexibility. How does 1 more sound? My arms are getting tired. How about you? 1 more. Before we lift, pause and hold, releasing your hands, giving anything a little shake that needs a shake, and just rolling out your shoulders if they're feeling a little bit tight. Crisscross your arms. Take a moment to release any tension before we pivot towards the other end of the mat. So it is your right foot that's coming either into half pigeon, so 90-90, this is perfect. If you're staying there, you can absolutely just work through the torso line rather than the leg. Variation 2, we're up, we're over, and we're starting with a tucked back leg. So find first maximal length through your back leg, and then exaggerate the lift of the heart, the length of your spine. Use your hands to support you, and please make sure that you're using your pelvic floor and your core, your abdominals to support you. On your in-breath, we're going to lift the back knee and exaggerate the lift of the front body. Exhale just to release your knee. This tiny little movement kind of looks like nothing, but it really dynamically and maybe dramatically increases what you're feeling through your left hip flexor. So if we combine a little active hip extension and at the same time a little bit more active spinal extension, we are really helping to undo what the day does to us with all the sitting demands of modern life. If you're okay, taking 2 more of these, please. So breath in, breath out. 1 more full breath in before gently releasing it out. Take a moment to just soften. In variation 1, you'll stay with that same movement pattern of working your back leg. Variation 2, you're going to test and see how this feels with no hands. And if it feels okay, interlace your fingers. And then it's a dynamic lift through the front hip, which is your right. So I'm squeezing my glutes in order to lift and then control the descent. So core is working with glutes, and that is that lumbo-pelvic stability that we are so interested in creating, keeping us healthy, helping us to age well and move pain-free. So belly strong and then squeeze into your glutes. Exhaling to slowly descend. Last 4, breath in, breath out. Finding your strength, please feel free to use your hands on the earth. Last 2. One more, please. One more. Press, pause, hold before gently releasing down. Once you've arrived there, we're easing our way back onto our glutes, onto our hips, onto our pelvis. And I'm going to spin you all the way around to come into just a restorative Paschimottanasana forward fold. But let's make it active. So a full breath in. And then just reach again as far as your body will allow. So variation 1, we'll bend our knees a lot. And we're thinking about moving our ribs towards our thighs rather than our nose towards our knees. So just move your ribs forward and then come back. Option 2, you're just lengthening a little bit more through your legs. And we're moving with our breath as we maintain action in our legs and energy in our pelvic floor and our abdominals. So breathe in together. Breathe out. Full breath in. Full breath out. Let's take 2 more. One more breath in that reaches the tips of your fingers before easing your way in. And I'd like for you just to land your hands, palms to ceiling, and take an opportunity to really relax your head, your shoulders, and just closing down your eyes, flooding the breath into the back of your body. You are welcome to add a gentle sway. Taking 2 more breaths as you are. One more full breath. And on our in-breath, we'll lift our heads, our hearts, before easing our way out. The only muscle group I feel like that needs a little bit more TLC is our hip flexors and our quadriceps. So with your block, I'd like for you to place it just in front of your left foot and step your left foot over top of it. Once we're here, knees over ankle, and we're allowing the hip to descend forward. In this position, ground your fingertips, lift through your chin, through your chest. And then I'd love for you once again just to lengthen as you breathe in and exhale to lower. So full breath in to really open the underside of that hip, gently descend. We've got 3 more. So how active and how long can you make your right leg before you gently release down? So we're deliberately strengthening right glute and at the same time opening the right hip flexor, gently lower. One more time, powerful into that back thigh before gently releasing down. Once you are ready, walk your hands back, lift through your tippy toes. And if the floor is feeling far away, that's where your block can help you. It can stay underneath that leg. And you can use your hands to find a little bit more lift and length. So we're easing our way in and out of plantar flexion and dorsiflexion. So as we point the toe and then draw the toes back, our spine stays long, our core stays engaged, and we're just bringing a little bit more length to our hamstring, our calves as we draw the toes back. And we're also deliberately stretching our nervous system, our sciatic nerve in particular. Taking 2 more and 1 more, please. So beautiful crew. we are moving into, and I use this word hesitantly, splits. So the block can start on its highest end, and sometimes that's still not high enough. So all I'd like for you to do is slide your left foot forward and then move your right knee back. Slide your left foot forward, move your right knee back. And hopefully at some point the block is now supporting your hamstring. And once you've arrived there, you're going to decide, is this the perfect shape for me? Or do I want to move my block a little bit lower? And then we're readjusting as the body opens. Do a little shoulder check for me. So sometimes funny things happens to this back leg when we're not looking. So we want our hip, our knee, our ankle, and our toes all in one line. And then as we stay and breathe, is there more space becoming available to us? And once you find the perfect endpoint for you, you'll take a breath in and open. And on your exhalation, just easing in any amount. So full breath in to lift, to lengthen, to open. Full breath out to gently bow. It's also a good distraction tool, right? Inhaling, lift, lengthen, pause, and hold. Exhaling to gently roll back in. Let's do 2 more. Full breath in. Full smooth breath out. 1 more breath in. 1 more breath out. And then I want you to decide, does this feel best to you to stay bowed? Or is it more delightful to stay lifted? Keep finding a little bit more length, a little bit more softness, a little bit more spaciousness for 2 more breaths. And when you are ready, it definitely doesn't need to be graceful. Getting out of this can be tricky. So we're just going to use our arm strength to draw the legs back towards the midline, and then you'll remove your block. And I'd like for you to come into puppy pose before we come to the other side. So let's use the block so we can really open the thoracic spine a little extra. Please place your hands on your block. Please walk your knees back so they're underneath your hip. And then begin to tilt your tailbone up as you begin to sink your heart low. So we're deliberately opening through our shoulders and finding this beautiful extension through our upper back, our thoracic spine. So exaggerate the melting of your heart, the softening of your ribs, and the tilting upwards of your tailbone. And if this is feeling a little too strong, you are welcome to just place your hands on the floor instead of using the block. Please stay and breathe for just 2 more breaths in this static shape. And when you're ready, just ripple your way forward. Slide the block back so it will be just underneath your right thigh. And then you're framing your foot with your hands. You're checking your knees right above your ankle. And when the time is right for you, we're tucking our back toes and we're powering into our back leg. So we are dynamically, actively creating flexibility through our left hip flexor. And the glorious benefit of that is we're strengthening at the same time that we're lengthening. So strong, long muscles is our #1 priority. I know I sound like a broken record, but we do not want to be flexible without strength. And we also don't want to be super strong if we don't have the mobility to move freely. There's 3 more of these, so full breath in, really tighten through your left glute, lift your quadricep, and then gently land. So you're deliberately tightening your bum and the front of your thigh, and then everything relaxes for a moment. There's one more. Inhale, pause, hold before gently releasing. So moving into half Hanumanasana, a half split. We're going to slide that leg forward as we shift our hips back. And if the floor is feeling far away, this is where our block is so beneficial. Please square your pelvis, draw your right hip back, left hip forward. Exaggerate the lift and the length of the spine. And when the time is right for you, we're gently doing a little bit of neural flossing. So nerves need love, just like muscles, just like tendons, just like ligaments. So we're just gently flexing, plantar flexion, dorsiflexion. If this feels okay, I'd like for you to take 3 more, please. One more, and then just pause and hold, feeling a little bit of length returning. And when you are ready, again, I use this term loosely, when you are ready to move into your version of the splits, all we need to do is slide our right leg forward, left knee back. And hopefully the block rises up to support you, but sometimes we need something higher, and that's okay. This is still the splits. Once you're there, you're going to exaggerate your length, and you're just checking in. So if it feels like there's more room available, you'll turn your block on the medium end. If you feel like there's still a little bit of space available, the block will come down to the lower end, and you're welcome to get rid of it altogether. But before you do, I'd like for you just to look over your shoulder and make sure that your hip, your knee, your ankle, and your toes are all aligned. And then we endeavor to square the pelvis, square our shoulders. And I want you to feel the upward lift of your pelvic floor, the drawing in of your navel, and holding a little bit of tone in your left glute. We're ready to move. On the breath in, we're opening front body. And on the exhalation, we're gently bowing in. So as far as your body will allow you to explore movement through your spine, as we hold this really deep stretch through our right hamstring and our left hip flexor. Let's take 3 more. Breath in. Breath out. Full breath in. Full breath out. Is it getting easier? Me neither. Inhale up. And exhale to descend. So now you're going to decide, does this feel like the best place to stay and breathe? Or does it feel better to me to focus on hip extension and spinal extension? Wherever you are, just make peace with everything that you're feeling. Affirming that gentle stretching, gentle sensation is medicine for our body. We're breathing a little bit more spaciousness, a little bit more softness, and definitely this sense of surrender as we take 2 more breaths. 1 more full, deep, delightful breath in before we gently release the shape. So you're just going to ease your way out. It doesn't have to be beautiful or graceful. And we'll once again swing the right leg back. We'll finish with thoracic mobility. So fingertips on the floor or fingertips on your block. And then please walk your knees back so your hips and your knees are stacking. And then let your belly sag, let your tailbone tilt towards the sky, towards the ceiling. And then your armpits, your ribs, your nose, your forehead moving towards the earth. Now, even though we are static, can you make this dynamic by using your breath? So even just this action of breathing definitely creates movement within the body. Last 3. One more breath. And then please ease your way up and out of the shape. And we'll finish with the block underneath the stickiest part of our spines. So if you are at a computer a lot, I'm going to recommend that you place the block between your shoulder blades. So it would look like this. So you'll just nestle yourself in. Your arms could be open, your arms could hug across, and if it's feeling a little strong, please bend your knees. It'll make it a little bit kinder. If you are finding that your head is dangling, it just means your upper back is really quite tight. And to begin with, use a pillow underneath your head. If you feel like you want a little bit more, you're welcome to turn it on its medium end. But it requires a little bit more mobility through your spine. And you'll quite likely find you want to use your hands behind your head to support you as you ease yourself into a more deeper back bend shape. So wherever you are, just closing down your eyes. And once again, feel how the breath is the movement, even when we are still. So modern life has us sitting so much. And when we sit, everything is in flexion. And the postural muscles in the back of the body become overstretched and long and normally weak. And the spine becomes stiffened into that flex position. So we want our mobility practice, our yoga practice, any of our movement practices to help us strengthen the back of the body, strengthen the core, strengthen the pelvis, open the front of the hips, bring more length into our hamstrings. But we also want to make sure that our spine, not just our muscles, our spine is also moving freely. So creating segmental mobility in our spine is one of the most important things we can do for our overall health, longevity, and well-being. Now, as we lay here with a block underneath us, this can be incredibly intense to begin with. So I never want you gritting your teeth and bearing your way through this. If you need to remove the block, please do. And just know that you could also start with just a little rolled up towel, something that's just a little bit more forgiving to begin with. So pain is never appropriate. Mild, gentle sensation is all we are seeking as we care for our bodies, as we nurture them. Just take one more breath. And when the time is right, the easiest way to come off of your block is to bend your knees. If your hands are behind your head, you'll use your hands to lift your chin. And once your head is lifted, you'll reach for your hamstrings. You'll use your core muscles, but you'll also use your abdominal muscles to ease your way up. And then I'd like for you to take your wrists or your forearms or your elbows and just move into a happy cat shape as you breathe in. A gentle bowing of the head towards the heart as we breathe out. And let's just do one more. So just reawakening the spine into extension before rounding, tucking the chin, and embracing a moment of flexion. Sit tall, release your hands, and just take a moment with your hands resting on your knees in easy cross leg. Breathing in to find length. And breathing out to feel that ripple of relaxation. Blessing our own bodies. Practicing kindness, compassion, patience within our own bodies. With our hands rising to our hearts and our chins bowing towards our chest, we take one last breath together before closing our practice with a bow. Namaste. Thank you, beautiful crew. We hope you have a wonderful day. You're so cute.